Today we're going to talk about equations of lines that are parallel and perpendicular and that go through a specific point. So yesterday we talked about how to find the slope of parallel and perpendicular lines, and if you guys will recall, if two lines are parallel, they have the same slope. Right, so if I said y is equal to 5x minus 4 and y is equal to 5x plus 17. These two lines are parallel because they have the same slope. Okay, and we said if they were perpendicular, that they would have the negative inverse, or negative reciprocal. Slopes. Okay, so what does that mean? If I said y is equal to 1/5 x minus 7, again, what do I need to do? I need to take this fraction, flip it, and change the sign. So it's positive, so it'll become negative, and 1/5, if I flip the fraction, becomes 5/1, or just 5. Okay, so we can write that 5/1 for now, but that's really not something we want to do. And again, your y-intercept for yesterday was inconsequential. This line, these are now perpendicular, okay? So it really didn't matter what our y-intercepts were. Yesterday, we were just focused on the slopes. Well, today we are going to focus on the y-intercept, okay? They're going to take it a step further. They're going to expect you to expand on this skill. And this is a very common type of question if you guys are taking, I don't know, high school math, geometry, college algebra even. Like, it's a very common thing to find lines that are parallel and perpendicular and go through a specific point. Okay, so say I told you this. I said y was equal to, y was equal to 10/3 x minus 8. Okay, and I want a line that's parallel. Okay, and rather than write this out every time, parallel to that line and goes through the point 7, -2. Okay, so building on the skill we had yesterday, first of all, we know it's parallel, so we know it looks something like this. We know it's got to have the same slope. Okay, but we don't know what b is, right? Again, we know this can have the same slope. We just really need to find what the y-intercept is going to be. Okay, so how we're going to do this is pretty straightforward. We're going to plug in 7 for x and -2 for y. Well, that will leave us with just this one variable b to solve for. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's plug in -2 for y, right? And let's plug in 7 for x. I know you guys are thinking I'm going to get fractions. Yeah, you're going to get fractions. I'm sorry. You guys are mature enough that you should be able to handle fractions, okay? So what's 10/3 times 7? We're going to say -2 is equal to 70/3. Remember, this is, if you guys forget how to multiply fractions, multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. This is really 7/1. Okay? And what are we going to do? We're going to subtract 70/3 from both sides. I know you're thinking, oh my God, I have to do fractions. That's fine. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. If you guys forgot, here's your quick review. -2, we need it in, they need to have the same denominator. They need to be in thirds. So what's 2 in thirds? Well, let's put it over 1. Well, I need the bottom to be thirds. I also need the top to be thirds as well. Okay? -2 times 3 is going to be -6. And 1 times 3 is going to be 3. You can also do these as fractions and decimals. The problem is that thirds are going to come out as a kind of nasty decimal. So what are we really asking? We're really asking -6/3 minus 70/3. Well, -6 minus 70 is going to be, oh, those are two negatives, -76. And the bottoms stay the same. So again, yeah, they hit you right off the bat with some fractions and things like that, but that's fine. -76/3. That's what b is. Okay? So again, let's go ahead and let's put it all together. I know this is an ugly thing, but you don't have to do anything with it. You're not going to have to edit. This is probably going to be the hardest part for a lot of you guys, is some of that basic stuff. And I would like to give you just, hey, here's a bunch of ones with integers and no big deal. But I'd be dishonest with you if I told you that that's, the kind of thing you're going to see. So we knew this from before. This is a line parallel to. All we're doing now is we're going to say minus 76 thirds, okay? So yes, it's an ugly fraction. Yeah, deal with it. Sorry, guys. You guys are old enough that you guys should be able to deal with this stuff. If you want a video reviewing how to go over fractions, please just let me know. I'll go over how to add and subtract fractions. I know it's been a long time since the 4th grade. It was a long time for me too, but Ms. Robeson taught me well. All right. So what if I said this? Y is equal to 2x minus 3. All right, much better, much nicer, right? We want to line this parallel to, and as a y-intercept 5. Okay, now I know you're saying, well, they didn't give us a point. Yes, they did. The y-intercept is a point. So if you guys recall, first of all, this is actually much easier. People see these problems and they freak out. That's the y-intercept would be right there, right? So that would be the point, I don't know, 0, 5. So this is actually much easier than you think it is. So y is equal to 2x plus b, right? Again, we know if it's parallel, it has the same slope. Okay? So what are we going to do? Let's plug in, plug in 0 for x and 5 for y. If you guys understand how the y-intercept works, this is actually a little bit easier than this, okay? 2 times 0 is 0. And so, b is equal to 5, right? Because it's the y-intercept, right? So when you see things like this, they gave you the y-intercept. It's just 2x plus 5, right? It's the same y-intercept we've been dealing with, okay? So when in doubt, though, what are you going to do? They're going to give you some equation. Write it. If it's parallel, you're going to write the same slope. If it's perpendicular, you're going to write the negative reciprocal slope. Pretty much plug in the point that they gave you, plug in x and y, and solve for b. All right, what if they gave you, a few more here, y is equal to negative 5/8 x plus 3, and I said it has an x-intercept of 10. Well, again, the x-intercept is some point out here, right? That would be the point 10, 0. So in this case, x is going to be 10, y is going to be 0, okay? So they want a perpendicular this time. They want a perpendicular, okay? So what are we going to do? We're going to take this slope. First of all, it's negative, so it has to become positive, and then we need to flip the fraction. Okay? And we need a new y-intercept. So what are we going to do? Let's plug in 10 in for x and 0 in for y. So I'm so sorry. 0 for y, 10 for x, and let's just solve for b. So again, we plugged in x, we plugged in y, we're solving for b. 8 times 10 divided by 5, again, is going to be 16. Okay, you guys can use a calculator if you like, but remember, 8 times 10 is 80, 80 divided by 5 is 16. Or if you see that this is 8 divided by 5, that would be 2, your call. And now we need to subtract 16 from both sides, okay? So people see these x-intercept and y-intercept questions, and they tend to freak out a little bit. They're typically more easier problems, okay? And your last step is let's put this all together. Y is equal to negative 5/8 x minus 16. I'm sorry, they wanted, my mistake, hold on. Negative reciprocal slope. Right? We want this one, right? That would be parallel to it and going through a different point. We want this one right here, right? Because they want a perpendicular. My mistake. 8/5 x minus 16. So again, take the second one that you created and just plug in this for b. Okay. All right. Y is equal to 5x minus 4. They want something that's perpendicular and goes through the point -3, 1. Okay. So they want a line perpendicular to this one and goes through this point. So first of all, we need to find the negative reciprocal of 5. Okay, so 5 is really 5/1. Most of you guys know that. So if we flip this, it's going to be 1/5. but we also have to flip the sign. So we're going to make this negative 1/5 x plus b. So whatever, any line that's perpendicular to this will be of this form, okay? Now what we need to do, we need to plug in negative 3 for x, and 1 for y. All right. Negative 1/5 times negative 3 is going to be 3/5. And what do we need to do? We need to subtract 3/5 from both sides. Okay? Again, remember 1, if I need to be in fifths, put it over 1, multiply the bottom by 5, multiply the top by 5. So that will be 5/5, right? Anything over itself is 1. Okay? So if we said, what's 5/5 minus 3/5? That would be 2/5. Okay? So what are we going to find out? B is equal to 2/5. So what are we going to say? Y is equal to negative 1/5 x plus 2/5. Okay, so again, what do? We found the slope. We plugged in the x and y coordinate they gave us. We solved for b. We had to do a little fraction work. And then we find out what b is, what the y-intercept is. We took that, plugged it back in here with our negative reciprocal slope. All right, we've got y is equal to 5, 6, x plus 5. They want something parallel and goes through the point 6, 4. Okay, so if it's parallel, again, we're keeping that slope this time. And we just need to find b. Okay, so let's plug in x. I smiled upon you today and gave you one that's going to work out nicely. And b is equal to 4. Okay, so again, 5 times 6 is 30. 30 divided by 6 is going to be 5. So 4 is equal to 5. So that's b. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. We'll find out that b is equal to negative 1. So again, what are we going to have to do? Let's plug that back in here. Y is equal to 5, 6, x minus 1. Okay, so a little bit easier when it's integers. Okay, so I'm sorry, I would like to give you ones with integers to start off with, but these are the perils and pitfalls of using something like IXL where they just give you guys fractions. So I'm probably going to put a suggested skill on there too, with a little bit of adding and subtracting fractions as a review. Okay, 2 more and I'll be done. Okay, y minus 4 is equal to negative 1/3 x plus 2. Okay, they want something that's parallel and goes through the point 4, negative 3. Okay, this is not in slope-intercept form, is it? This is in the this is in point-slope form. Okay, but regardless, all we care about is the slope, right? If you go back to all these problems, in order to get to the next step, all we needed was the slope, right? We found the negative reciprocal slope, right? For the negative reciprocals, all we needed was the slope. We didn't really even care about the rest of the points. Okay, we were going to create those ourselves. So all you need to know right here is that this slope is really the same problem. Y is equal to, they want us in parallel, negative 1/3 x plus b. All the rest of this is inconsequential. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what do we need to do? Let's plug in 4. And let's plug in negative 3. Negative 1/3 times 4 is going to be negative 4/3. And what do we need to do? We need to add 4/3 to this side. We're going to add 4/3 to this side. Okay. Again, 3 in thirds, so negative 3 over 1. We need to make it in thirds. Let's multiply the top by 3 and the bottom by 3. So now I have negative 9/3 plus 4/3. Okay, again, let's keep the denominator. And again, same rules. Negative 9 plus 4 is going to be negative 5. So b is equal to negative 5/3. So what are we going to do? Let's put it all back together. Y is equal to negative 1/3. That was our slope that we found in our first step, right? And all we need to do is put in our b value, which is going to be minus 5/3. All right, I think we just got one more and we'll call it there. Okay, this one is the same thing. It's going to be in point slope form. Y minus 2 is equal to -6/5 x minus 3, and it goes to the point 6, 10. Okay, again, all this information, oh, I'm sorry, this is perpendicular. All this stuff is inconsequential. We don't care about it. All we care about is that this is the slope right here. So we have y is equal to, but I don't want this slope. I want the negative reciprocal. So 5/6, right? Flip the fraction, change the sign. It was negative, it's now positive. It was 6/5, now it's 5/6. X plus b. Okay, we're going to plug in 6 for x, 10 for y. 5 times 6 divided by 6 is going to be 5. Okay, and last step, we'll subtract 5 from both sides. 10 minus 5 is going to be 5. What are we going to find out? Y is equal to negative reciprocal slope 5/6x plus 5. Okay, so again, hopefully that covers everything. I'm going to give you guys probably 2 days to complete all these problems because I know they're a little bit complicated. I'm also going to put on there a suggested skill for you guys as hitting and subtracting fractions. So take a look at that too. And I don't know, I'll talk to you guys probably on Thursday. Thanks.